one of the things that is very important for people to understand when they're working on healing themselves, especially when you're dealing with codependence and the really the art of relating or learning how to relate in a functional way is this. We are constantly being inundated with media. And even before it was media, then we had oral traditions of storytelling. And in these stories that are being told, you get the fairy tales. You have the character, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, and all of these stories. And if you look at what happens, the archetypal patterns, the stories are really telling they're telling the stories of the archetypes, and human beings are acting out those archetypal patterns. And the archetypes that get mixed and matched, there's all kinds of hybrids. I don't think on the planet exists a person, that is reflecting just one archetype. It just doesn't exist anymore. Maybe at some point it did. But there's layers of it and shades of it. And so what I'm doing with 2.0, with codependent, the last half of it, 2.0 section of it, is we need to address all of the archetypes that we've already covered: the victim, the villain, the hero, and address the addiction. The addict is there as well, but most people, when they're dealing with codependence, when you're reading literature about it, they're talking about the codependent person who is in relationship with someone who is addicted. And what I am saying is, the codependent person is also the addict. They're as much an addict as the person that they are in relationship with, because they are addicted to, if nothing else, the fairy tale story that they're holding, and whatever that character is that they're choosing to act out. Although it might be, although in most cases it is very much unconscious that we're playing these roles. Mm-hmm. And these roles, you could pick up the role from ancestral patterns, which is usually where it starts at. In your family, do you have a family? If you look back and you think about the story of Cinderella, are you seeing a pattern of Cinderella going from generation to generation? And what does Cinderella look like in your family line? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Is she waiting to be rescued by a prince? And the princes that have come along in your family line, have they really done the rescuing? Or is she now rescuing, trying to be the hero and save the prince? What's the role you're playing? What fairy tale story are you living out in these relationships? What character are you playing? What role are the people that you are relating to playing? What role was your mother playing? What role was your father playing? Because when you're going out and choosing who you want to be in relationship with, you are choosing to relate to these people so that you can continue living out the story. So you need to start, in order to heal, you have to become aware of not only the story that you're playing, the fairy tale that you're attempting to live out, but also the characters, the role, the archetypes represented in those stories. And here's the catch. Because we're in this hybrid situation, guess what? I could be acting out a Cinderella storyline, but I'm pulling a character from Snow White. So they're not necessarily synonymous. You might be pulling a character in from Little Red Riding Hood, but until you bring consciousness to it, awareness to it, all you're doing is just being on autopilot in order to correct the behavior, which is the whole reason for the course, for the class, course correction. You've got to understand what you're really working with. You need to understand what you're really looking at and the fantasy that you have in your head that you're really trying to live out. Make sense?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much 2.0.
Okay.